What's going on, guys? It's the Draft Nerd, and today we're going to be going over my Week 3 power rankings. And Week 2 was the week of upsets, let me tell you. So these power rankings changed quite a bit, so without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, coming in at 32, we're staying the same here, it's the Carolina Panthers. The two games that Bryce Young played were not great at all. He looked very uncomfortable in the pocket. He just looked like a shell of himself, and they're planning on making a change at quarterback and going with Andy Dalton. Though I think that's going to change a whole lot. It'll probably improve the team a little bit, but the surrounding cast around Andy Dalton is nothing special at all. The new revamped offense hasn't shown anything for me. I mean, Xavier Legette hasn't really made his mark yet in the league. Adam Thielen's been struggling to get open and get the ball, and the offensive line has been solid, but just not good enough in general. And then that defense is atrocious. J.C. Horn's really the only bright spot on that defense, so it'll be interesting to see how Andy Dalton can improve this team, but until the Panthers actually show that they can win a game, they're going to be here at 32. Coming in at 31, we got the New York Giants staying pat here at 31, and they really should have won last week against the Commanders. If it wasn't for Graham Gano getting injured, they probably could have been a lot higher on here. The defense played, I don't even know how to assess the defense really. That was the most bend but don't break defense I've ever seen in my life. They allowed the Commanders to get to the red zone I believe it was 5 or 6 times, and they couldn't get a touchdown. The Giants held them out of the end zone. But they were able to kick 7 field goals and still win the game, even though the Giants scored 3 touchdowns. It was the most strange game ever, but the Giants just find ways to lose, so that's why I got them here at 31. Moving on to 30, we got the Commanders. Now, I've seen a lot of power rankings having the Commanders more towards 25, 26, and I understand that, but Jaden Daniels hasn't played particularly well. He's been the best rookie quarterback out of the bunch, but he's still yet to have a passing touchdown. He's struggled to get Terry McLaurin really involved in this offense, and then that defense, especially that secondary, if the Giants are able to absolutely cook that secondary, just imagine what every other team is going to be able to do, because Daniel Jones is not the best quarterback in the world, and he was having a lot of success passing the ball. So that's just not a great sign for the Commanders, and throughout the season they're going to be improving just because their franchise quarterback Jaden Daniels is going to get more comfortable in that offense, but for right now I still don't think they're a very good team. Moving on to 29, we got the Broncos dropping 2 spots, and they got a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix. He's struggled a lot. He's looking a lot like the Auburn Bo Nix as opposed to the Oregon Bo Nix, but he's a rookie quarterback still trying to find his footing. He's yet to throw a touchdown pass. I don't think any rookie quarterback's thrown a touchdown pass yet. Jaden Daniels has a rushing one, but 0 passing touchdowns for any of the rookie quarterbacks. I believe Bo Nix has got 4 interceptions, so he's just struggling a lot right now. And there was a notion that he might not struggle just because he's a quote-unquote experienced rookie quarterback playing so many games in college, but the transition is just always so tough for quarterbacks. So, I kind of expected this. And any team with a rookie quarterback is hopefully going to improve throughout the season, and I think the Broncos are no different. Moving on to 28, we got the Tennessee Titans staying at 28, and it's fun to watch Will Levis play football. Is it good football? Sometimes. Other times it's absolutely dreadful football. You never really know what you're going to get with Will Levis. He's a big play quarterback who's either going to make a big play or he's going to make a terrible play. And until the Titans can kind of hone in on, making Will Levis a little bit more consistent, it's going to be tough to win games. Moving on to 27, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars dropping 9 spots after losing to the Browns, and that offense I just feel like has no identity. Trevor Lawrence is a good quarterback. I still believe Trevor Lawrence is a top 12 quarterback in the league, borderline top 10, but the offense just has no identity. They want to be able to stretch the ball downfield to guys like Brian Thomas and Gabe Davis, but when they don't have guys like Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram to move the sticks, it's just a tough offense to run. I think eventually they'll create an identity and maybe stretch the ball out. Like I said, Gabe Davis is a very inconsistent player to begin with. Brian Thomas is a good player, but he's kind of pigeonholed into one area right now, and that's being a deep threat. I think he will develop into a more all-around receiver, but for right now he's just a deep threat. And then that defense is just a really one-man show with Josh Hines-Allen on that defensive line. He's not getting much help. He's playing very well, but the guys around him aren't playing well. So really the Jaguars just have no identity on either side of the ball, and that's why I got them dropping 9 spots. Moving on to 26, we got the New England Patriots dropping 4 spots, And they had a big win in week 1 against the Bengals, and they almost had another big win against the Seahawks in overtime, but they did end up losing. And it's really just that offense for me. Jacoby Brissett and those receivers, they're just not getting open. And it's mainly due to their inexperience. Like I said, Pop Douglas is this is a second year. Jalen Polk's a rookie. Javon Baker's a rookie. It's just not a very experienced wide receiver core, so you can't expect them to really be a cohesive unit yet. And that defense is going to keep them in a lot of games just because they're so good with Keon White, Christian Gonzalez on the outside. They're two really good safeties in Kyle Duggar and Jabril Peppers. Jawan Bentley is, I believe, unfortunately out for the season with a torn pec, I believe. Maybe, I think it's a torn pec. So that's a big hit to that defense, but they got so much talent on that defense. They're just going to keep the Patriots at a lot of games, and it's going to be up to that offense if they're going to be able to, take that team over the hump. Moving on to 25, we got the Browns dropping 1 spot after beating the Jaguars, and that's really just the nature of power rankings. Even when you win a game, you might drop a spot just because other teams played very well. And the Browns played better than they did in week 1. Deshaun Watson looked like a competent quarterback. Now we'll see how long that lasts. They play the Giants in week 3, so he might play well against the Giants as well, but I still don't think he's a very good quarterback. But that defense just has so much talent, and the receiving core is talented as well with guys like Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore. So it's really just comes down to Deshaun Watson, and if they also can get that run game going, hopefully when Nick Chubb comes back, he'll give him a boost in that category. But it's really just if Deshaun Watson continues to play good, the Browns will probably continue to win games. Moving on to 24, we got the Dolphins dropping 16 spots. They are the biggest fallers in this week's power rankings, and it's in part due to Tua Tagovailoa going on IR and going to be out for at least until week 8. But even when Tua was playing against the Bills, he was not looking good. That offense did not look very, very cohesive. Especially now with Tua being out, I just don't see that offense being able to thrive. They rely a lot on Tua Tagovailoa and his savviness, anticipation, accuracy, things like that. And I just don't think they're going to have that with Tua Tagovailoa being out. Now they could try to go out and look for someone, because I don't really think Skylar Thompson is going to be able to win many games for the Dolphins. And plus, that defense is lacking a lot of talent ever since Christian Wilkins left in free agency. So the Dolphins are going to have a rough stretch of games, and once Tua Tagovailoa comes back, they're going to have to be playing catch up, and they might even miss the playoffs now, which is very unfortunate. Moving on to 23, we got the Indianapolis Colts dropping 12 spots, and I hate to do this to them because I think they're a talented team, but Anthony Richardson needs to learn how to, be efficient without just going for the big play. He's going to make these big time throws once or twice a game, and it's going to be amazing to watch. But can he just consistently hit targets within 10 yards? He's the most inefficient quarterback I've seen in a while, and if he's able to just be a little bit more efficient, that team surrounding him is going to win games. Their secondary is a little bit lacking aside from Kenny Moore. Like the outside corners are definitely thin for the team, but overall that defense is solid. Michael Pittman's a dog. Jonathan Taylor's a really good running back. It just comes down to if Anthony Richardson can be efficient and not just look for that big play. Moving on to 22, we have the Chicago Bears dropping 6 spots. And, I've still got faith in the Bears. That defense is absolutely amazing with led by Jalen Johnson. And it's really just, is Caleb Williams going to be able to figure out the NFL before it's too late for them to make the playoffs? Because I do think he's eventually going to figure it out. He's just too talented of a quarterback not to. But that offensive line has got to hold up better for him. The Houston Texans were they're just dominating that offensive line. And Caleb Williams really had no chance. And like I said last week, Caleb Williams is not going to be able to put on the cape in the NFL and do what he did at USC. He's going to need that offensive line to play better. He's not going to be able to just, escape the pocket, make highlight plays after highlight play. Like, that's not going to happen in the NFL. He's a good quarterback, and he will figure it out, but that offensive line has to do him some favors. Moving on to 21, we got the Raiders going up 8 spots after beating the Ravens, and, Gardner Minshew is just a quarterback where he's either going to win you a game or he's going to lose you a game. And today he won the game, and it was just an all-around team effort. Brock Bowers is an absolute animal. I think he's going to be one of the best tight ends by the end of the season, if not the best tight end, in the Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta, George Kittle conversation. Moving on to 20, we got the Seattle Seahawks moving up 3 spots after beating the Patriots in overtime. And, And they're just a good team as long as Geno Smith plays it good. He was really able to get Jackson Smith and Njigba going. He had a career day, and it's almost like the passing of the torch between Tyler Lockett and Jackson Smith and Njigba. I think JSN's are going to start being that chains mover, and DK Metcalf's going to be that deep, big play threat. And then Kenny Walker, when he comes back, that offense is absolutely nuclear. And Zach Charbonnet did his job in Kenny Walker's absence, but when they have Kenny Walker in that offense is very, very good. And then the defense, especially that secondary, is very good as well. Moving on to 19, we got the Bengals not moving a spot. And, they were very close to beating the Kansas City Chiefs, one of the best teams in the league. They are 0-2, which is kind of what the Bengals do. They have, slow starts ever since Joe Burrow was drafted there. And I have faith that the Bengals are going to string together some wins. They have a very easy schedule if you look at it. They only have like 2 or 3 more quote-unquote hard games. The rest are very winnable games for the Bengals. So I don't doubt that they're going to make the playoffs, but they just got to play better. The Jamar Chase situation is just very weird. T. Higgins has yet to play because of an injury, and then that run game is struggling too without Joe Mixon. So, I think that offense is going to play better. I think Joe Burrow was the best quarterback on the field that day against the Chiefs, but I think they just got to build chemistry and just get some wins. That's all they really need to do. They're a good team in my opinion. Moving on to 18, we got the Steelers going up 7 spots, and Justin Fields is kind of having a career renaissance. I really don't think that they should start Russell Wilson even if he's healthy in week 3. I think that you just ride Justin Fields till the wheels fall off, or until we give you a reason to bench him, because right now he's playing winning football. He's playing just good enough to win you games. Because that defense is so good with TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith pressuring the quarterback, and then the secondary is pretty good as well. So as long as Justin Fields is winning you games, I don't think you should replace him with Russell Wilson, even when he is healthy. Moving on to 17, we got the Green Bay Packers moving up 3 spots, and Malik Willis showed that he can win you games. I was a big doubter in that. I didn't think that they were going to play very well with Malik Willis at quarterback. But Matt LaFleur completely changed that offense to more of a gap running scheme, and it really helped Malik Willis out. All he had to do was not lose them the game. They relied heavily on Josh Jacobs and Malik Willis's feet, and when they did have to pass, Malik Willis made, the smart decisions. And then that defense also held him in the game. So as long as Malik Willis can, not make costly turnovers and not lose them the game, I think they'll be just fine without Jordan Love now. Moving into 16, we got the Atlanta Falcons moving up 10 spots after beating the Eagles in Monday Night Football. And, that defense is just very talented. Matthew Judon was an amazing acquisition. The 2 safeties in Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates are probably the best safety duo in the league. You got AJ Terrell on the outside, Grady Jarrett up in the middle. Like, that defense is really, really good, and it's going to keep them in games. I think they're a top 10 defense. And then as long as Kirk Cousins is the same Kirk Cousins that we seen in Minnesota, which he wasn't in week 1, but in week 2, he looked like the good old Kirk Cousins. I don't think he's fully comfortable on that Achilles yet, but we got to see the play action, which Kirk Cousins is so good at, and that they didn't utilize in week 1. So that offense has potential to be very scary. Bijan Robinson and really Tyler Algier as well was running all over that Eagles defense. So, I'm beginning to trust the Falcons again. Moving on to 15, we got the Rams dropping 6 spots. And this is really just due to injury. They're having terrible injury luck early on this season. Puka Nacua is looking like he's going to miss up to half the season. Cooper Kupp just went to IR. That offensive line is banged up already, so Matthew Stafford is really going to have to make some magic happen if they want to win games. And I'm starting to worry that they're not going to be able to win games without their 2 receivers, and that they might miss the playoffs, because this is such a talented team when healthy. But being this banged up, I can't imagine they win many games. Moving on to 14, we got the Arizona Cardinals moving up 3 spots. And Kyler Murray had a very, very, very good game. He actually got Marvin Harrison Jr. involved this game. I believe he had I think it was 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Kyler Murray really just played well all around. He had, I believe, 6 big-time throws, which is insane. And when Kyler Murray is playing like that, it's going to be very hard to beat him. James Conner also was running all over the field against the Rams, and they just looked like the better team. Granted, the Rams were, plagued with injury, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Cardinals end up being a top 10 team here soon. Moving on to 13, we got the Los Angeles Chargers, and they're moving up 2 spots, and that's just because they're just a good football team. They might not have all the, flashy talent, but they're just a well-run football team. Jim Harbaugh has really changed the culture here. They changed from more of a pass-happy offense to more of a run-heavy offense. J.K. Dobbins, as long as he stays healthy, is going to have a spectacular season behind that offensive line. Joe Alt continues to show why he was the right pick, and he's proven why they shouldn't have went receiver there. Joe Alt, I believe, only allowed 2 pressures in 2 games, so he's having a really good start to his career, and Justin Herbert is making the throws that he needs to make. Granted, they did play the Panthers, so not the hardest of competition, but they just seem like a very good team. You know, I'm not going to say that they're Super Bowl contenders by any means, but I think they're just a very good team, and it's going to be hard to beat them no matter which team they play. Moving on to 12, we got the New York Jets, and they stay pat here at 12, and you know, they looked better than they did in week 1. Aaron Rodgers is getting a little bit more comfortable coming off that Achilles injury. Breece Hall is looking like a very dangerous weapon. It's just that the receivers aren't getting as open as I thought they would. Garrett Wilson, I expected a little bit more from these past 2 weeks. Mike Williams is, easing his way back from injury. And I think, given time, this offense is going to be way better. And I'm impressed by that offensive line. They're holding them very nicely. But I'm just expecting a little bit more out of the receivers. And then the defense had a bounce back week. Sauce Gardner had a very down week. It was his worst week of his career. But, the defense in general played a little bit better than they did against the 49ers. And I expect them to be even better in week 3. So, I'm holding pat on the Jets, but I think they could be rising up these rankings in the coming weeks. Moving on to 11, we got the Cowboys dropping 4 spots and falling out of the top 10 after that embarrassing loss to the Saints. And I think the Cowboys are a good team, but they're not playing like a good team right now. Dak Prescott has struggled in these first 2 games. That defense in general has struggled these first 2 games. I think that they will turn it around, but I don't know. The Cowboys are just one of those teams that just seem like they can't string together important wins. Moving on to number 10, we got the Vikings cracking the top 10, moving 11 spots, and Sam Darnold's looking like a very good quarterback in this league. Him, Justin Jefferson, when Jordan Addison comes back from injury, Aaron Jones is looking like a very good acquisition. Like, this Vikings offense might be a little bit better than we thought it was going to be. At least for me, it is. And then that defense led by Brian Flores, they're just such an advanced defense. It's hard to know what they're doing, what pressure they're sending, what coverage they're in. It's just a very good run defense, even though it might be lacking some, top end talent. Moving on to number 9, we got the 49ers dropping 6 spots. And a lot of these top teams did lose this week, so I'm trying not to overreact too much. But CMC's on IR. It's looking like Deebo Samuel's going to be out a few games now. And Brandon Ayuk just is still kind of ramping up after holding out all offseason. So that offense is struggling a bit. But, I fully expect them to still win games without Christian McCaffrey and without Deebo Samuel. They're just too talented of a team not to string together some wins. But yeah, it was a bad look for him in week 2. Moving on to number 8, we got the Baltimore Ravens dropping 5 spots after they lost to the Raiders. And same thing, they're a really good team, really talented team. And they didn't necessarily play bad. It's just that the Raiders played better. I still believe in Lamar Jackson in this offense. Like I said, that offensive line is very questionable for me, but as long as they can hold up, I think that the Ravens are going to go very far. Moving on to number 7, we got the Detroit Lions dropping 1 spot after they lost as well. And same thing, they played good, they just didn't play good enough. Jared Goff had 2 interceptions, which was very bad. Dan Campbell, was the same gutsy coach where they called a fake punt, basically on their own end zone. So, I'm just a big fan of this team. I'm a big fan of their run game, big fan of their defense, but they just had a bad week, and I think that's all it really was. Moving on to number 6, we have the Bucs moving up 7 spots, and Baker Mayfield has just had a career renaissance here in Tampa Bay. They're just rolling like a well-oiled machine. Him, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin had a big game this week, and that offense just in general, especially the passing offense, is looking very potent, and then that defense is keeping them in games as well. So as long as Baker Mayfield continues to play this good, I think that they could easily make a pretty good run in the playoffs. Moving on to number 5, we got the Buffalo Bills going up 5 spots, and Josh Allen's just carrying him to wins. He's playing out of his mind. This offense is lacking talent. They don't really have that alpha receiver. Keon Coleman, I don't think had a single reception this week, but guys like Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel, they're playing very well. They're playing above what I thought they would. And then James Cook is, playing very well in the run game. So this offense is playing a lot better than I assumed it would, and I'm learning to not doubt Josh Allen's talent. And then that defense is also playing above what I thought they would, especially after losing Matt Milano for the season. So as long as this Bills offense continues to play this good, I think they're going to be a solidified top 5 team this season. Moving on to number 4, we got the Philadelphia Eagles dropping 2 spots. And they really should have won that game against the Falcons. So a couple of boneheaded decisions down late in the fourth quarter, and then the drop by Saquon Barkley really cost them. I'm not a fan of how soft they played that last defensive drive. They let Kirk Cousins just piece them up and pick them apart and drive down the field extremely fast. And that's just what you got to expect from a Vic Fangio defense, is they're not going to send pressure. They're going to be a bend but don't break defense, and it just so happened that they broke on Monday night. That offense, I think, is going to be very good once A.J. Brown comes back, but they definitely missed him this game. Britton Covey should not be getting that many targets in a game, but he was forced to kind of be that wide receiver too, which is not ideal. Moving on to the top 3, we got the Houston Texans moving up 2 spots, and C.J. Stroud is already a top 5 quarterback. He's had one of the best starts to an NFL career for a quarterback I've seen in a while, and this offense is it's so good around him. Nico Collins has proven that it wasn't a fluke last season. Stephon Diggs is playing well. And, this is all happening with Tank Dell not really being a factor in this offense. I believe he had like 1 reception for -3 yards this game. So, just imagine when he gets involved in this offense. Joe Mixon's been really good. He got a little banged up this past week, but I think he's probably going to be good to go for next week. And then this defense is insanely good with Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson on the edge. Derek Stingley and Kamari Lassiter are both playing out of their mind. I was a big fan of Kamari Lassiter coming out of Georgia, but I did not expect him to play this good this early on, but I'd love to see it. And then Jalen Petrie being that last line of defense is just a chef's kiss. Moving on to number 2, I do have the Saints. I couldn't quite put them number 1, but they did move up 12 spots, and they've just been blowing every team out of the water. Week 1, I was a little skeptical because it was the Panthers. The offense looked amazing, defense looked really good, but it was the Panthers. I really wanted to see how they played against the Dallas Cowboys, and they, completely blitzed the Cowboys as well. Dropped 40 points as well on their head. So I think this offense is very legit. Rashid Shaheed is looking like the second coming of Deshaun Jackson. Chris Olave is, being able to create separation with ease, and Alvin Kamara is proving that not all running backs past the age of like 27 are, going to slow down. Alvin Kamara still looks like his, 2019 self. And then that offensive line, the 2 tackles in Talise Fuanga and Trevor Penning are playing a lot better than I initially thought they would. And then the defense is also playing well as well. So, as long as this team keeps overperforming like they are, I don't see why they can't be a top 5 team. And then moving on to number 1, we got the Kansas City Chiefs. Until they lose a game, I'm going to have them as the number 1 team. I think they're still the favorite to win the Super Bowl, even though Patrick Mahomes didn't play the best of games and they did almost lose to the Bengals, but they just found a way to win, and that's what good teams do. So until they lose a game, I think they're still the undisputed number 1 team in the NFL. But with that being said, that's going to be the video. Let me know what you guys think of my power rankings. Let me know who I have too high, who I have too low. And if you like the video, consider liking and hitting that subscribe button. And as always, I'm the Draft Nerd, and thanks for watching.